Hello! So in your video today I'm going to teach you about something that we see in all music. It's very important, it has to do with rhythm. It's called a time signature. So I'm going to explain what that term means and break it down a little bit and show you some examples. So a time signature comes at the very start of a song, and it consists of two numbers that come in a combo together, one on top and one on bottom. And the one on the bottom is almost always going to be a 4 or an 8. There are other possibilities, but they're really not very common at all. Now on top we can have really any number, but again, the most common ones that we would see here for this one would be a 4, so 4 time. For this one, you can have a whole bunch. You can have a 3, you could have a 6, you could have a 9. There's a whole lot of combos. We'll just throw a 6 up there for now. But what we're really going to focus on in this video is this one more so. So let's talk about what these two different numbers represent. Okay, so the bottom number represents the type of note that gets one beat. So in this case, when we have a 4 on the bottom, that means a quarter note, which is this guy, equals 1 beat. If it were an 8 on the bottom, that would mean that an 8th note, which is the one with the little flag, would equal 1 beat, and we'd have to count things differently. So we're not going to worry about that one today. We're going to worry about this one. So that's all that the bottom 4 means. Quarter note equals 1 beat. The top number tells us how many of these quarter notes I can expect to see in something called a measure. So basically what that means, a measure is where I divide my beats, and that's just to make it A, easier to count, and B, easier to read. So we just do that every 4 beats. So as an example, if I have 4 time, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that I've hit my number, I'm going to create something called a bar line, which is just a nice straight line that I throw in there to separate the notes, make it a little bit easier to read. The way I like to think of it is like a sentence, and if you were reading a sentence and none of the words had spaces between them, it would all start to jumble together and be confusing to tell which word is which. So think of like this measure like a word and this bar line like a space, separating it from the next word in this line of music that is our sentence. Okay, so I drew 4 quarter notes to equal my 4/4, but really I can have anything in here as long as it all adds up to 4 in the end. So we also learned about the 8th note, which equals half a beat. We could throw those in there. And I also briefly mentioned the quarter rest, and this also equals 1. So I can throw some of those in there to make a measure that equals to 4 as well. So let's try that. Let's start with a rest. So I now have 1 beat in this measure. I need to add 3 more. I could add a quarter note. I'm now at 2 beats. Let's add in some 8th notes. When I connect them into a pair like this, as opposed to having the little flag on top, when added together they equal 1. So I now have 1, 2, 3 beats, so I need 1 more. I could add in any one of these things again. Let's add in another rest. So there are many possibilities for what I could put in to these measures to make them equal 4, and there's no limit to how many measures I have. So if we went and looked at a song like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, there'd probably be many measures. Off the top of my head, I'd guess maybe like 20 or 30 measures in that song. Okay, so the last thing that we are going to try is I'm going to create even more measures on the back in 4/4 time. And we're going to see if we can play them on a single note. So pick any note, doesn't really matter. Probably C is the easiest one to start, and then just tapping on C and trying to get the rhythm right. So on a C, going 1, 2, 3, 4. That one's pretty easy. So here, for example, we'd have a rest, so in which we do nothing. Rest, so not gonna actually play anything at that point, just counting. Rest, 2, 3, and rest. That's how I'd count that guy. So let's try it. That one's a little weird. Let's try it one more time. So I'd have rest, 2, T, T, rest. So now I'm gonna flip this guy over, and I'm gonna switch colors, make it a little darker, and create a couple more measures for you to try out. Just try them on C, and Gonna do them all in 4/4 time. Now it's usually written with this kind of a 4. I'm not very good at writing those, but it doesn't matter when you're writing on paper, but if you see it in music, it's probably gonna be that kind of 4. So let's try a whole bunch of 1/8 notes. So all of these together, that equals 2. So I need 2 more beats. So let's try like that, and one of those. There, I've created a measure. Okay, I'm gonna add my bar line. Let's make an easier measure here. Okay, now if this was the same song and I was continuing it, I wouldn't have to write 4/4 again. Only one time at the beginning is good. So let's just make 2 more measures. Let's do, so I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4 beats, and we'll do one final measure with 1, 2, 3, and 4 beats. Okay, so trying this out on C, I would count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and, or if you prefer TT and ta, T T T T ta 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 ta, T T ta ta ta, T T ta T T ta.